We live in a world in which stressors are nonstop. Combine that with a culture that values grinding away and a never give up, never surrender attitude, and we've got a recipe for disaster. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or just plain drained, you're not alone. It's not uncommon to grapple with depleted resilience and struggle to bounce back from curveballs. But here's the thing. Resilience isn't just a trait you're born with. It's a skill that you can develop and nurture. In today's blogcast, I dive into the art of resilience building to help you reclaim your inner strength. Hey everyone, I'm Laverne McKinnon, and welcome to the Moonshot Mentor blogcast, where I provide tools and insights to support your career growth, including grief work. Unprocessed grief leads to a loss of resiliency. Resiliency is a critical element to long-term career success. Long-term career success leads to financial stability and fulfillment. So that's why I'm both a coach and a certified grief recovery specialist. Okay, let's get right into the deep end of how we live in a world in which stressors are nonstop and how your resilience may be depleted. There are a number of factors that can negatively impact your resilience: loss, fear, insecurity, physical illness, disability, and sustained hardships. And these are just a smattering of a long list of factors that can suck the resilience out of you. A lack of resilience may manifest as ruminating on problems, being short-tempered, overeating, mood swings, isolation, and unhealthy coping strategies like the improper use of alcohol and drugs. Some of my clients also experience anger issues and are unable to navigate stressful situations. Stress can weaken the immune system, leading to catching cold and the flu more frequently. And some of my clients fall into self-hatred when they avoid pursuing their goals. So what is resilience? Google defines resilience as a capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. Now, I really love this definition from the Resilience Center. Resilience is the capacity each of us can develop that prepares us for life's inevitable ups and downs and promotes positive adaptation to any situation, no matter how serious and stressful it might be. The positive news is that there are a number of strategies in which you can rebuild your confidence. For example, self-care. Now, I've made the mistake of looking at self-care as another way to check off to-do boxes rather than actually nourishing myself. It actually took me fainting to realize I needed to take time to rest and relax deeply. Another strategy is to surrender yourself with people who love you. Now, I understand that this might take effort to cultivate because you may be isolating yourself due to your lack of resilience. Learning executive functioning tools like breaking down goals into teeny tiny action steps that are time-bound. Practice radical acceptance. There is not a lot that we can control, and yet we're constantly looking to change people and events. Learning to accept the hard truths that come our way creates a path to move forward. Know and live your values and purpose. They are your North Star, and they're going to clarify your choices. Now, while I was researching resilience strategies, I found this checklist that was created by Dr. Kenneth Ginsburg, a pediatrician specializing in adolescent medicine. He suggests 7 components of resilience that parents can use to teach and create opportunities for their kids to practice. He calls them the 7 C's of resilience. Competence. So allowing kids to have a variety of experiences will increase their competence. Confidence. Allowing kids to try new things and then coping with the challenges that will naturally arise from trying something new. Connection. Allow kids to have close ties, obviously with their family, but also with their community. Character. Allow kids to listen to their own sense of right and wrong. Contribution. Allow kids to genuinely contribute and then positively acknowledge their contributions. Coping. Teach and model positive coping strategies. Control. Teach kids that their choices and actions have consequences and results. Now, as a parent, I see the wisdom of Dr. Ginsburg's framework. Teaching my children these 7 qualities and skills would most definitely develop their resilience. Now, as an adult who's continuing to learn how to replenish and find resilience, I've adapted the 7 C's for my purposes. Competence is only gained through experience. As adults, we believe that we need to be inherently competent as opposed to accepting the hard truth that we will succeed and fail. Failing doesn't mean that we lack judgment or are untrustworthy. Failure means that we're learning. Confidence. Now, confidence is accessed through courage. You gain confidence by having the courage to try new things and losing the expectation that you will be immediately competent. Coming back from challenges, pitfalls, and face plants builds knowledge that you can manage them and not die or fall apart. Connection. Now, connection is accessed through knowing and celebrating your values. When you live your values, you find your people and your people find you. Having people in your life who get you really helps you navigate the tough times. Character is built through alignment with your values and actions. The hard truth is that we step on our values all the time, but with practice, we can become more consistent and then be in integrity. This integrity builds self-trust. Contribution. Now, this is interesting because contribution has to be validated by yourself in order to truly build resilience. Relying on external validation is like putting water into a gas tank. It's not going to get you anywhere. Remember that your contributions to your community are vital for everyone's overall well-being, and give yourself a pat on the back. Coping is a radical acceptance that you are imperfect. So stop beating yourself up when things go wrong or bad. Say ouch when something stings as the first step to coping with challenging times. That open acknowledgement is critical to further taking care of yourself rather than self-soothing through denial. Control is a fallacy. What we really have is choice. You always have a choice. You may not like the consequences of the choice, but you have one. So now I'm going to just take a few minutes to share an experience with you of a person who deeply inspired me as it relates to resilience. Etsko is the walking embodiment of resilience. She's a widow in her 70s who has less than half her teeth, is legally blind, and has significant hearing loss. She also speaks multiple languages, including English, and served as a translator and guide when my husband, Chuck, and my daughter, Mitzi, and I visited my Aunt Katsuko in Osaka, Japan in 2010. I was enthralled with Etsko from the first moment. When my Aunt Katsuko brought her to our hotel, I immediately noticed her vitality and curiosity. She walked really quickly and decisively with her long cane, and then she immediately asked, "O genki desu ka?" which means, "How are you?" in Japanese. She acted as if she was like the host of the world and welcomed us as her visitors. She insisted we sit down and get to know each other. So we sat in the lobby to have tea and cookies, and she held the menu literally inches from her face so that her eyes could read the choices. She questioned the waitress about the ingredients and flavor profiles, and when our snacks arrived, she ate them with so much gusto, pieces of cookie were flying out of her mouth, and just a joyous, fireworky explosion of food and spit. Now, I normally would have been repulsed, but Etsko had no shame or embarrassment, just delight. It was so infectious. Now, after our tea and cookies, we talked about wanting to visit the aquarium in Osaka, but we were totally not certain how to get there with public transportation, and if we took a cab, it would have been wildly expensive. So my Aunt Katsuko said that Etsko knew the bus and train system well, and she would guide us. I was flabbergasted. How could a legally blind person lead us? Etsko got us to our destination with no wrong turns or delays. It was easy peasy. And I was confronted with my ignorance, arrogance, and judgment of how someone with physical limitations can navigate the city. It was a really eye-opening experience for me, no pun intended. Etsko knew all the best places for delicious, affordable food, and she brought us to this Chinese restaurant on the 5th floor of a building, down a long corridor and tucked away into a corner. It was so lovely and serene, and it only had 8 tables. We couldn't read the Japanese menu, so Etsko took control and ordered for the table, treating us with so many awesome, unusual dishes, and it catered to everyone's palate. After that meal, I was exhausted and ready to collapse. Etsko would have kept going, but she was really compassionate and got us back to our hotel. On that trip, Etsko demonstrated competence, confidence, connection, character, contribution. She told me how, despite the many hardships and losses that she'd endured, she would find solace through staying connected with friends. They held her, supported her, and gave her protection when she was running low on resilience. She also said that her natural curiosity went out over literal and figurative stumbles. And even as her body began to fail, She loved to teach and could always find someone who valued what she had to offer. We certainly did. I think frequently about her as a role model who has not only inspired me, but she just never allowed deeply challenging obstacles to stop her from living her values and purpose. Okay, bottom line. The key to building resilience is to acknowledge that your reserves are low and that you need to stop muscling through. Grit is not grinding away. True grit is radical acceptance of hard truths and granting yourself grace and compassion. Give yourself permission to grieve setbacks, disappointing news, and unfulfilled dreams. Unprocessed failures and a lack of grief work can lead to a loss of resilience. When you're feeling like you're stuck in quicksand, overwhelmed by life's demands, or just plain exhausted, your resilience tank might be running on empty. Loss, fear, insecurity, physical illness, disability, sustained hardships, these can all chip away at your ability to bounce back. And when our resilience dips, it can show up in a variety of ways: ruminating on problems, turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms, feeling short-tempered or isolated, and even struggling with anger or self-doubt. But there's good news. Resilience isn't a fixed trait. It's something we can cultivate and rebuild brick by brick, whether it's through self-care practices or surrounding ourselves with loving, supporting friends, or learning to break down big goals into manageable steps. There are so many different paths to replenishing your inner strength. And just like parents can nurture resilience in their children through Dr. Ginsburg's 7 C's, we adults can adapt our principles and those ideas to our lives. There's nothing broken about needing extra support. So let's roll up our sleeves, reparent ourselves with kindness, and reclaim our resilience, one courageous step at a time. Okay, so that's it for today. Head over to Moonshot Mentor on Substack for journal questions to help you better understand your relationship with resilience. I'd love to hear about your experiences with loss and resilience and how you rebuilt your resilience. So drop me a comment. You can also visit me at moonshotmentor.com, where you can find links to all of my social and how to work with me. A very big thank you to Lynn Chen for the video and audio editing. You can find her on social at Ms. Lynn Chen. And if you are enjoying what you're listening to, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to my blogcast. It would help me achieve my moonshot of 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.